In a nation where corruption allegations fuel distrust, Haiti's largest port has become a flashpoint. According to the Associated Press, Haiti's Transitional Council President Fritz Jean says a communications officer was threatened into releasing an unauthorized statement about a 27-year lease for Caribbean port services. Jean insisted the deal should be reviewed by a judge to avoid suspicion of corruption. The disputed press release claimed everything was transparent, but many Haitians see another attempt by wealthy elites to tighten their grip, while gangs they allegedly finance control 90% of Port-au-Prince. Will this controversy derail Haiti's fragile transition, or will accountability prevail? Here's what's at stake. Caribbean Port Services, CPS, was created in 2015 when several private port operators merged. Since then, CPS has grown into the dominant gatekeeper of Haiti's imports, handling roughly 4 out of every 5 containers that pass through the public port at Port-au-Prince, under a public-private arrangement with the National Port Authority, APN. In practical terms, a single private operator sits at the choke point of a country that depends on imports for daily life. The current firestorm centres on how that dominance was extended. On December 4th, 2023, under the unelected Ariel Henry government, with Parliament inactive, the APN signed a renewal with CPS stretching up to 27 years in 3 automatic 9-year blocks. Critics say there was no competitive tender, no sign-off from Haiti's Superior Court of Auditors, and generous terms that even shift part of dredging costs to the state. Officials cited older decrees to justify the extension. Legal experts counter that locking a public asset for decades without competition defies best practice and may be procedurally flawed. Inside CPS, power has names. The company is led by President-CEO Philippe Cole, alongside executive and minority shareholder Edouard Bosson, who sits on the 7-member board. Together, Coles and Bosson met Haiti's Transitional Presidential Council on July 28, 2025, to defend the contract. Days later, on August 4th, a pro-CPS statement appeared from the Council's communications office, declaring the deal legal and transparent. Jean disavowed it, alleging it was issued under duress and without his approval, and called for an independent judicial review to determine whether a 9-year renewal became 27 by law or by pressure. Supporters argue the long horizon lets CPS amortize investments and modernize operations. Detractors see a sweetheart deal inked in a vacuum of oversight. Another link in a chain of opaque public contracts that entrench private monopolies while the state weakens. If this contract dodges real scrutiny, it isn't reform. It's the same cartel politics with better lighting. The port is Haiti's choke point. Leave it unexamined and corruption keeps its hand on the throat. Real change means line-by-line judicial review, public terms, independent audits, performance targets, and penalties that bite, not signatures inked in the dark. If we can't see who pays, who profits, and who answers when targets are missed, the deal is just a subsidy for the old order. Open the books and test it in court, or admit corruption still runs the port. If you found this breakdown valuable, help us keep shining a light on Haiti's power struggles. Like this video, subscribe to the 1804, and join us as we keep exposing the deals that shape the country's future.